Lisa here from Down to Earth Gardening, and I know today I've got quite the outfit on, but today's video is going to be on pruning knockout roses. So it is a great time of year to prune your knockout roses. So typically late winter, early spring is when we prune them. I've always done that and been very successful with them. They are really reliable bloomers. I love the shape and the size of this rose and all of the different colors that it comes in. So I'm going to walk you through pruning, and I'm going to try to break it down and just make it really simple for all of you at home pruning your own roses. So the one I'm working on today, I believe, is a double pink knockout, and there's another one behind me that is a sunny knockout. So it's a really pretty lemony yellow, but there's going to be more on knockout roses and roses in the future, so stay tuned for those videos. But today we're talking about pruning, and of course the biggest reason that we prune our roses is for health. So if we want to keep them healthy, we prune them every year. If you haven't pruned them in a while, if it's been a couple years, you may be taking off a little more than I'll be taking off today. But because we keep after them every year, I typically take off about a third to a half, so no more than a half. And I know that a half sounds like a lot, but they are really vigorous growers. So don't worry, you're actually doing them a favor. And of course, the second reason that we are pruning them is to shape them. And so it's for aesthetics, just to keep them shaped and looking pretty. And normally for these shrub roses, we're looking for a nice open vase shape. So this one here is a little bit odd shaped, probably just from making some bouquets and maybe deadheading them last summer to encourage the reblooming. So we're also going to be thinking about reshaping this one. But the top tip that I have for your roses when you prune is to think about your 3 Ds. So 3 Ds are how you're going to attack your pruning. So what you're going to be looking for are the dead branches, the diseased branches, and the damaged. So dead, diseased, and damaged. So those you're going to remove first before we're even thinking about shape or aesthetics. And then of course, for your materials, you want your pruners, clean pruners. So I like to sterilize them, and really you should always do that, clean them in between each rose, because you can transfer diseases easily. So clean, sharp pruners. I have a bucket handy, I have my kneeling pad, and I also have my rose gloves. And I have to tell you folks at home that I don't really love wearing gloves. I like to feel the plant material and the soil, but I've gotten quite a few thorns in my hands over the years. And the last time I had a thorn embedded in my finger and actually had to have a little office procedure done. And it's not good for you. They carry bacteria and it's really terrible. So I really want to strongly recommend that you get some rose gloves, some suede gloves, something thick, and cover your arms also. Okay, so the 3 Ds. So what I'm looking for first is anything that is dead. And so that really helps take the guesswork out of this. So we're going to need to get a little bit closer. And it's kind of nice here because you can also see the bud eyes forming a little bit. So it really does help you figure out where you want to make your cuts. So let's see here. All right, cuts on an angle. I try to do 45 degrees. And I'm going right above this little bud eye. You want a nice sharp cut, and that's so the water isn't sitting there, because that will encourage disease and damage your rose. And I always try to pick an outward facing bud because that is the direction that the new growth is going to grow. So we want it kind of moving out We want this rose to have good air circulation, so we don't want them to be pointing back inward and cross over. Okay. So you can see here, what I did is I just took off this little branch, and what I was looking for is I was looking at this dead here, and it's a different color. So instead of just kind of snipping it here and there, I'm trying to be a little more efficient, and I'm just taking this whole little branch off. And I try to do that as much as I can. So for example, you know, here's another really nice branch, and I see a lot of dead on it, but instead of making a lot of small cuts, I try to just make one big cut. So I can see some little buds emerging down here, and I could go that far because this is an outer branch. Okay, so there's a lot of dead up here. See a little more dead here. So I've been doing this for a long time. So I've had my business professionally for just about 23 years now, and I really have to admit to you that when I first started, it was kind of painstaking for me. And that's why I'm really trying to show you how to do this at home, just to take the guesswork out of it. But what I would do is I would go ahead and I would cut off all of this, the small dead pieces, and then inevitably I would end up trimming in the end this whole branch. So I'm really just trying to save you a couple of steps and a little bit of time, because we're right on the cusp of spring here, and there's going to be a lot to do in the garden here. So dead, damaged, diseased. And I'm just going to go ahead and keep pruning, and you can follow along. So this here was the shortest part of the shrub. So I'm really using this kind of as a guide to where I'm going to try to get the rest down to. So we also do want to look down at the bottom here, because there is quite a bit of dead, and this is going to show you here. This is a completely dead piece. So you can see the different colors. It's brown, there's no green, no life inside here. And remember, I'm really trying to make my cuts that nice clean 45-degree angle with the new bud eyes more leaning out, so pointing out. Now this process is a little forgiving, so you really don't have to get too caught up in it. And like I said, this is going to put on a ton of growth this year. It really does help to look at the rose from some different directions. So I like to move around the rose. All right, don't be scared. This is going to be a big cut here, but I see a lot of dead on this, and this really is an awkward shape, so I am going to forfeit this. This is borderline lopper material here. And there we go. that really just was an odd shape. That was the biggest reason why I took that off. And so next, after you do your 3Ds, so that takes a lot of guesswork out of what you're taking off of the shrub. Then you start getting into making sure there's nothing crossing, so you don't want anything touching, because that is just going to invite, you know, disease. And you want to make sure that the shrub has pretty good air circulation. So you really do have to get down in there and remove some on the inside. And then of course, lastly, I'm thinking about looks. So I like to have the top the tallest, and then I like to have it tapering down. So I'm really trying to keep that nice vase shape. So you do really have to get in here. And so it's pretty hairy in here, and I want to get rid of this. There's not only is there a lot of dead on this, but just for air circulation in itself, this is really not good to have it so thick in here. I'm going to remove that. And there's a little more dead in here. So I have a lot of the dead off, and I'm really also thinking about shape and air circulation at this point. I do like to lift it up off of the ground here as well. Another completely dead little branch here. So you can see just by my trug here that's quite full how much that I am taking off of it. And seriously, don't be alarmed. These are such great roses, and you really want to do this. You're doing the rose a favor, because if you leave the dead and the diseased on there, it's really taking away the energy from the flowers and the beauty and the health of this shrub. Okay, so now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. I am gonna go and just tidy it up a little bit. I see some tiny dead stuff in the middle here, so really I'm just finishing it off now. I also find there's a lot of talking to myself while I'm doing this, so don't mind me. I'm not sure about this. So what I'm seeing that maybe you can't see is it's touching down at the bottom. So really what I'm looking at is, you know, what's the healthier branch? And I'm also trying to think about shape. So it seems like such an important part of the rose that I might leave it for a little bit and then maybe just keep an eye on it here. Okay, so this rose has been pruned. I went through it one more time and snipped out any of the smaller branches that were dead and made sure that nothing was really touching or crossing, and of course lastly shaped it for aesthetics. So I'm loving the shape, but as you can all see, I did take off at least half of this shrub. You can see all of my prunings here in my trug, so quite a bit, but not nervous at all. This is going to be beautiful this year, and I'm actually really excited to see some flowers. So I have one more rose to do today, but I do want to thank all of you for joining me today. I really appreciate you watching our videos. If you like the video, tap like, and please hit subscribe for some future gardening fun with us. It's happy almost spring, and we have a lot more gardening videos coming your way.